Terry, you were dancing in the background there too. I was waiting to see if you'd keep going.
The music stopped, man. It's like I had to take a chair. I didn't know what to do. That's how my brain is wired, right? The music stops, you sit down. That's it.
That's right. Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome. This is Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing. I am on with the ever popular, entertaining, and all-around great guy, Terry Bean. Terry, how are you doing today?
I couldn't be better. I'm excited to join you again. You are so much fun, and I'm just thrilled to be here. And I think this conversation is important. So it's all just flowing well.
Yeah, I am so excited about this conversation too. There's so many conversations happening right now in our country, and there's so many different points of view that folks are having. And for those of you who don't know Terry, I'm going to have him tell about himself in a minute here. But for those of you who don't know Terry, if you're not following him on Facebook, I always like when I see his posts on Facebook, and he's a little bit more social on Facebook. He's a very, professional person here on LinkedIn, but on Facebook, he'll post some social issues and questions. And I noticed he started kind of talking recently about talking with people that you don't agree with and how to find common ground. And he started some conversations along those lines. And I'm like, that's what we need. We need those conversations to happen. So I said, why don't we do a LinkedIn Live and have this conversation? And he said, sure. And I want to give you guys a little bit of background. So I have been a fan of Terry Bean. He's like a celebrity. I always say Terry Bean in a full name. I can't just say Terry. I've been a fan of Terry Bean since whenever, I don't remember, but he's been one of my social media mentors. I think he was the first person I had seen speaking about LinkedIn like back in the day. So he was one of my early mentors. And I even remember at one point, Terry, when I was launching my business, when I called you and I was asking you questions about pricing, and you didn't know who I was, like for half the phone call, if you remember that conversation.
Yeah, because your phone number wasn't in my phone, right? We were just having a little dialogue, and I'm like super helpful, and I'm like, hey, can I ask who this is?
You're like, who is this? And at that point, I think we'd been on the phone for 20 minutes, so that's one of my more memorable Terry Bean stories.
Yeah, it's funny. I was on my way to a Walsh College campus during that conversation. I was going out to Walsh Novi at that moment.
That is crazy.
So
we've been friends for a while. We're going to have a great dialogue today. I want to take just a moment for those of you who are watching us live. We're actually live streaming on 3 networks this morning. We're live on LinkedIn, we are live on Facebook, and we are live on YouTube. And earlier this week, there was a little bit of a hiccup on LinkedIn. The live stream wasn't working. So could you guys do me a favor? If you're actually on LinkedIn right now, could you please leave a comment and say, yes, we can see and hear you? I would really appreciate it. I think it was a StreamYard LinkedIn connectivity issue. I just want to make sure that folks can see and hear us. So please drop in the comments. You can just say hello from Metro Detroit. I'm in Fraser, Michigan in my home office. Terry, where are you at today? You're not on the lake. I was wondering if you were going to be on the lake, but where are you today?
I am near the lake, right? So I have good proxemics to water, but I'm in the lower level of the White Lake Estate, or also known as my very small, humble abode.
Very nice. And Terry, if you guys don't watch him on LinkedIn, he does a lot of videos and talks about his consulting business and his practice and things like that. And he does some, what do you call them? Is it like it's like from the boat, or there's a series where you're like actually out on the river or on the lake, right, talking to folks?
There was a period a couple of years ago, I put my own dock in, and the dock had a slant. And I think it was this way. It might have been this way, but it was likely to fall in at any moment because I put it in. And so I had a whole From the Dock series with the idea that maybe I'll just fall in while I'm filming and we'll see what happens.
That might make for an interesting show for sure.
Listen, you want to catch that stuff on video for sure.
Right. Because that'd be like YouTube viral right there, right?
Exactly. Here's a guy dropping a couple of nuggets of wisdom. Oh, look, he's in the lake.
And we'll cut from there. So I see the comments are starting to come in. So thank you guys for doing that. I really appreciate it. And I want to encourage you to continue to leave comments and join the conversation as we're going throughout the conversation here today. And before we get into the subject of talking with people you don't agree with and finding common ground, Terry, why don't you take a few minutes, tell us a little bit about who you are, what's your business all about, and then we'll jump in.
Sure. So I've been in the promoting and helping others game for a really long time. I started off as a technology sales guy and got into networking groups really early on and found I had a penchant for listening very well, helping other people, making sure they could grow their business much better than growing my own. So, I ended up starting Motor City Connect back in 2006, and with the idea of bringing our community, the Detroit community, together. And through that, TEDx Detroit got launched, and that was a lot of fun. And so now I spend my time coaching, training, speaking, mostly on business growth, occasionally on personal growth. And really, I'm just here as a little helper monkey to make sure we all just get along and move forward and have a better life. That's my whole thing.
Yeah, and Terry Bean is awesome. Do you hear me? I can't say just Terry. It's like Terry Bean. Terry Bean, the celebrity, is awesome. You guys, if you're not already following him, follow him on all the major and the minor social media. He's everywhere. Follow him. You'll be inspired. He will entertain you. He will educate you. He is absolutely amazing. And you've done so many great things to unite so many people. And Terry, when I think of you, I think of networking. Like, you are synonymous to me with, networking and being a resource and connecting so many people. So that really leads us to the conversation for today, Terry. So give us a little bit of the backstory on kind of this topic, and how are you doing your part to get some of these conversations happening that really need to happen right now?
If you read my Facebook bio, it actually says I start conversations, right? And that's really my whole world. And it's not just a matter of starting them, but it's a matter of keeping them going. That becomes really important. And they have to be going in kind of a decent, respectable, and respectful way. So I don't ever really apply ground rules when I post, hey, and I'll delete all these comments if you're, I don't do that. But for whatever reason, I think most people know that my nature is I'm going to seek to find common ground. You're going to say something really dumb, not you, Brenda, but you, somebody commenting, or rude or crass or whatever. And I'm not going to try and out crash you or out rude you.
Right.
I'm going to try and dig a little bit deeper into what you're actually saying and give you the opportunity to either explain or redeem yourself. And it starts because I have a natural affinity for people to get along. Maybe it's conflict resolution.
Are you a middle child by any chance?
It's interesting that you asked that. Depends on which side of the family. I was raised as an only child, but my father has 4 children, and I'm the second of 4. So, but I never lived with any other of my siblings. So I was raised as an only child.
Okay.
So I'm like,
you seem to be like that type of a mediator personality. Like you are not trying to like get everybody to come to this side or to go to that side, but it's more like, okay, let's try to understand the point of view from both sides, and let's figure out, is there a common ground we can start from? What is that element, right?
So if you were to ask me my political viewpoint, I would tell you that I am a radical centrist. Right? I am not left. I am not right. I am dead center. Yeah. And what I really want to do is kind of be the voice of the middle, because we hear so much from extreme left, we hear so much from extreme right, and the rest of us are somewhere in between. And our voices get drowned out because, one of the things about being in the middle is we don't necessarily take a stand. Right? We don't jump up and hold our power as much as we could. And it's not that we don't have beliefs. It's just that we recognize probably that most people think similar. So why do we have to shout that from the mountaintop? So it's an interesting thing.
Yeah. And you've had a lot of conversations over the past few years, especially I've noticed on Facebook. And sometimes I'll message you. I'm like, Terry, you're such a pot stirrer. Why would you put that out there? And then you get literally he's like, he'll put something out there and I'm like, wait for it. And you just sit back with the popcorn, because you know what's going to happen. This thing's going to explode and people are going to jump in. But you do have that knack for getting people talking and bringing people into the conversation. And we need that. I don't think, the goal here is to just have your own point of view and, turn yourself to the other direction and not participate in the conversation. I think the goal is to get people talking to each other, right?
That's exactly it. And so for one reason, I Candidly, sometimes it's for my own amusement and entertainment. Like, let me be totally honest and upfront. Sometimes it's because I just need some entertainment. But
Yeah.
most of the time, it's because I really want to check the temperature of where people are on certain issues. And it's interesting. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I was teaching people how to do social media, it was avoid politics. It was avoid religion. It was don't be that much. And in the same presentation, I would tell you that, if you really want to start a conversation, you have to be provocative. You have to take a stand. You have to say something. And so for me, I like that angle. I like the idea of starting these discussions. And like I said earlier, I like the idea of keeping them going. And because ultimately, we're at a point right now in our country's history, or country's present, where I feel like the tension is palpable. And it's because we don't speak to say anything other than our stance. And more importantly, we don't listen to do anything other than refute what was said. We're not trying to understand. And that's like the key message is, and I've been arguing for a few years now. We listen with our eyes now. We don't just listen with our ears anymore. We listen with our eyes because we spend so much time typing and reading that listening isn't the act of hearing. Hearing is a physiological act that involves sound. Listening is a physiological act that involves your brain processing information that is taken in through your ears. Well, you can do that through your eyes now too. And we kind of have to. But it's so important to make sure that we're trying to get somebody else's point. And I think that's what we don't do well enough.
Yeah. And I've seen people, unfriending, I'm going to use Facebook because it doesn't happen as much on LinkedIn, unfriending people on Facebook or blocking them or muting them. And I'll say guilty as charged. I feel sometimes people are trying to push their values and their beliefs so hard upon you. And sometimes they're not based from fact. It's based from, I don't know, the people with the tinfoil hats, or I don't know where their sources are coming from, but I respect that you have a different point of view, but I don't want to be made to feel bad because I don't share that same point of view. And sometimes it feels like there's daggers coming out from those comments. If you don't believe this, then you are sheeple, and those types of words. So I'll admit I mute, for people for 30 days. And if it keeps happening, I'll unfriend or I'll block. And I'd love to keep the dialogue going, but I feel, Terry, and help me and maybe others with this too. I feel sometimes there's not a place that I can meet this person in the middle because they don't see a middle. They see a right and a wrong, and they're on the right of it. Right. So what advice do you have for folks like that?
Change the dialogue, change the narrative, change the conversation. Right. And this is what happens. We start with, if you're not wearing a mask, you're a selfish jerk. Right. That's what kind of starting point is that? Maybe the starting point is the health and wellness of human beings is important. Right. Who's not going to agree with that? And so one of the big challenges is we tend to start our arguments on the fringe as opposed to start them in the middle. Because, I don't know if you ever watched the show Silicon Valley. It was a tech entrepreneur show on HBO for a few years. They always talked about they had this new solution called middle out compression, which allowed files to get flat, right? You're techie enough, right? So you could have greater, it would be easier to transfer them, less bandwidth needed, blah, blah, blah. But middle out compression was a great idea from a technology perspective. Middle out discussion is a great idea for a human perspective, right? So we have to really start somewhere where it's not so direct and virtue signaling and name calling-esque. It's like, what can someone else agree on? Where do we start there, and how do we start there?
So have you been able to successfully do this? Bring people to that middle ground?
I do it all the time. Right. I do it all the time. I have conversations and I'll watch, right? Because I know I have people that as soon as I see their name, I'm like, oh no, what are they going to say now? Right. And 8 times out of 10, at least over the last year, they've been respectful, they've been kind, they've said things that actually add value to the conversation. And normally these people are super far to the right or super far to the left. You know, if you may recall a couple of years ago when all the right side was calling all the left side snowflakes, and then all of a sudden all the right side became a bunch of white snowflakes too. I was like, why are we swapping ground here? Let them be snowflakes. You be different.
Right. Let's own the snowflakedness, and you know, let's be delicate, and you know, I'll transformative or whatever it is, right?
So flowery with your snowflakedness. Yeah. But it's, you know, if you can maintain dignity in yourself, right? If you can maintain being respectful, if you can maintain kindness and maybe a little bit of curiosity, those things are what allow conversations to continue. Yeah. It's the flip of those that are conversation stoppers, or, you know, even when someone calls a name of somebody else. I watched a friend back and forth, far left person, far right person. And they
on your post, was it
on my post?
Like Terry threw down raw meat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then he went like, "Okay, let's see what's gonna happen."
I'm just sitting there like this. Ooh, look at you, cuties, go! I watch it. I'm like, "Hey, hurry up! I got shit to do, people. Let's go. I don't have time to wait for you in between." You know,
there's no ending. Nobody's gonna win. You know, it's not gonna happen.
It was hours, right? It went back and forth. There were, you know, links and conversations and supporting evidence, and it was masterful. It really was a great series of discourse. I'd pull it up and show you, but I don't have the time to block out the names, and I don't want to incriminate the not so innocent.
Was this a Facebook where it wouldn't be public, or are these people public on Facebook?
Everybody, all my posts are public, right? Yeah. I want you all to join in my little primordial soup, right? So jump in. The water's fine. At the tail end of it, she, left side woman, said, blah, 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 bunch of ridiculous people. I don't remember what her exact phraseology, crazies, bunch of crazies. And she listed a handful of Republican senators, one of them being Ted Cruz. This dude was from Texas, said, "You think Ted Cruz is crazy? That's it. You're a nut job. I'm out. We're done talking."
Oh, that was it. That was the straw right there.
That was the. I'm like, What a weird hill to build your fortress on. That Ted Cruz isn't crazy. Kinda, maybe a little.
Well, okay, then there's that, you know. And I think it's amazing and great that we live in a nation where we can, and I say this often, so where we can all openly express our point of views. And we can do so legally, you know. We can say whether we support one party or another, or you know, we have these points of views about why things are the way that they are, and we can openly do that. In other nations and other countries across the world, you can't do that, and you know, women are silenced, and there's other things. I mean, we live in a nation where we can do these things. So this is it's a wonderful country that we live in, and I also love the fact that we do have a political process, and people change in appointed leadership positions every few years. So you know, whether you like them or not, it's temporary, right?
Well, it's not as temporary as it could be, right? The one area that most of my friends, whatever side they're on, agree on is that term limits in Congress are a necessity.
That's right.
And like 87% of the population agrees to that. And for whatever reason, let's see how we get that put through.
Who makes a decision about that? The people that would make their jobs be affected, right? So there's a little bit of something there.
It's it. It's like, wait a second, how did we blow this process so much that we, you know, it's like giving the keys to the asylum to the inmates, right? You know, you guys just set up your own policies, terms of come and go. Here, just have this. It'll be fine.
I mean, we won't worry about it. Voters, we make a decision. It's like we as consumers make a decision when we spend money with a local small business instead of a national chain. We make decisions, and we as individuals make decisions with our voting pocketbooks, if you will, when we choose to go to the poll or we don't choose to go to the poll. And, you know, if you've got an opinion, let's voice it through a ballot, right? And if you want term limits, and if you want changes, you got to like be a part of that process to make that change, right?
I live in a little tiny township called White Lake. I mentioned that earlier. They've not 30,000 people out here. And a couple of years ago, there was the idea of bringing a brand new library to White Lake. And I don't know how many people could possibly use the library. A mile and a half from my house now is a gorgeous, stunning looking library. That library passed by 2 votes. 2. Right. And so we talk about the idea of voting, and people are like, oh, my vote doesn't matter. Yes, indeed, it does. So please, I don't care who you vote for, exercise your civic duty and vote.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's important. And we're joining, if you're joining us a little bit late, we're talking with Terry Bean about talking with people you don't agree with and how to find common ground, and such an important conversation. And I think there's more and more people that are trying to figure this puzzle out right now, Terry. You know, how do we agree not to agree, but be respectful? And the word respect is a word I hear coming up time and time again. So, you know, any other advice for folks that are watching here today, or things that you've learned, lessons you want to share?
Yeah, there's a few. One, don't be so easily offended, especially things that aren't about you. Right? We get so attached to ideas. Those aren't you, and they're not even yours, right? So let's separate like that. If someone's attacking the idea or the argument or the thought, that they're not actually attacking you. So that's one. 2, patience, right? Patience is huge. We have the ability to sit back, read something, type up a response, and then walk away from the keyboard.
Right.
We don't have to hit send all the time.
Yeah.
So that's an idea, because what can happen in even 5 minutes, right? Or 5 seconds is you would be like, oh, all right. We have such a tendency to react. The reality is, what you really want to get in the habit of is to respond, right? Respond, much like listening involves some sort of thought process. Responses require the same thing. So they're not just that knee jerk, I'm gonna flame you. Right? Stop that. It's a lot like being that angry driver on the road. It takes a lot of time to go from someone that's jerking the wheel all the time, right? To be able to be someone that's calm and relaxed on the road. But we need to do that on social media too. And then the biggest thing is you have to decide that you're going to be above it. You know, to quote Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high.
Yes, I love that quote.
Figure out what high looks like for you.
Right.
You know, you don't have to mire yourself in the mud every time somebody else does. You can just kick back and watch them wallow and go, look at you, you're all dirty.
That's another point too. You don't have to, I'm kind of like, I heard this once too, Terry. It takes more effort to frown than it does to maintain a face. But it's the same thing on social media. It takes more effort to actually pull out your keyboard and type something in and hit send than it does to scroll. Like, you just use your finger, you scroll, you arrow it down. And I'm going to shift us off of politics and go into LinkedIn now and just talk about, you know, we get trolls and we get haters and we get people that disagree with our opinions. And, you know, a lot of times we don't even know who these people are, and they're, you know, they may be fake or spam accounts, but it's like they're just attacking. And I get these every once in a while. I know my post is doing really well when the trolls start to come out, because it's reaching more and more people, right? And what I do is, when I get these very negative, snarky comments or just negative attacking my points of view, I will say, you know, hi, Scott. Thank you for leaving a comment here. By doing so, it actually broadcasts this post out to your network, which is helping me reach more people. So thank you so much for that, and have a lovely day. And I'll kind of, I won't go there. You know, I'll stay high, right? I won't go to their point of view, but it takes more effort. So it's like, why don't you just scroll on by? You know, why do you have to stop, right?
It's true, you know, and I don't know if we just don't feel heard enough. I don't know what's driving that behavior, right? That's what we really need to get to the bottom of. You know, the old saying, hurt people hurt people. So why in obviously over the last 6 months, right? Tensions are a little high, COVID's quarantine, whatever. It has changed how we behave a little bit, but this didn't just start 6 months ago.
No.
Right? We've been going through this for a few years and maybe even a couple of decades at this point. Well, maybe not on social, right? Social's only been around for 15 years for most people. But it's one of those things that I'd love to figure out the psychology of what brings somebody to the point where I'm going to absolutely flame someone I've never met in my life.
Right. What is that? Yeah.
Why are you like that? Some jerks are just jerks, right? I guess. Maybe it's because they're sitting in their lower level too. I don't know.
Who knows? But you can't control that. But I always tell people, and a lot of times when I comment back to the negative comments, I don't comment back for that person because I'm not feeding the trolls, right? I comment back for the benefit of my community, so everyone knows that I monitor and I do actually respond back to comments. I don't ignore them. I may not agree with your point of view, but I'm going to acknowledge you so that other people go, oh, well, and it demonstrates who you are as a person and as a human being by showing you're not going to go low, right? You're not going to match their wits or try to get into an argument. You're not going to win, right? Because you can't rationalize with that type of logic sometimes, right, Terry?
That's that's a good lesson in using social media for customer service too, right? How often do companies or businesses get flamed on social? And then they're like, how do we delete that post? Right. No. This is the perfect opportunity for you to do what you just said, to display who you are, acknowledge it, accept it, own it, do what you can to fix it, right? And that speaks way more volumes than anything anyone's going to say negatively about you.
Right.
So, I think we have to engage regardless of how annoying or irritating or painful that it may be.
Is it ever okay, Terry, to just ignore, or is it ever okay to delete instead of responding to comments on social media, whether you're a person or you're a business? What are your thoughts there?
I don't think it is. I don't think you should ever delete them. I think if you ignore them, again, that sends a message too, right? And what's that message? Deleting says, oh, this must be true, right? Because people read it probably before you did. And if all of a sudden it's gone, they're going to be like, wow, they didn't even address that. I wonder what that means.
And we live in a screen capture nation too, right? Where people grab things. And then, even like when companies have typos in their posts or different things. And I remember years ago, there was a person who was managing KitchenAid's account. And I think it was when Obama was running and he was doing a speech. And they posted something from the KitchenAid Twitter account that was their own personal point of view. And then they quickly realized it and deleted it. But in the meantime, all these people had screen grabs of it. So it was, even if it was within 3 seconds, it was out there, and it was out there. And then people started retweeting what they took a picture of, and it was gone. And then KitchenAid had to issue an apology statement along with it. But you got to be careful. It can be a little bit tricky when you're out there, but what goes out on social media. And I remember hearing this, and I don't know if who was it said it, but don't ever post something on social media that you wouldn't want to have on the billboard on the side of, in Michigan, I-75, wherever you live, it might be another expressway. But if I don't want that being read by everybody in my local community, I shouldn't be posting it on social media. Do you agree with that, Terry? Do you think we have more leniency on social media?
I don't think we have more leniency, but I think we have, and maybe it is a little more leniency. Okay. I always think about don't post something you wouldn't want your grandmother to read, right? And so I don't mind what you're posting as long as it aligns to your brand, right? So if you go follow Wendy's, for instance, on Twitter, they are snarky as snarky gets, right? And it's gorgeous. And it's shocking because why the heck Wendy's decided to be this rogue Twitter account is crazy, but they're savage and they'll say wild stuff. But it fits and they use it and they leverage it. So I do think in certain instances, if that's who you're being and that's how you position yourself, you get to do pretty much whatever you want, which is kind of weird.
That's the brand that you've created for yourself. And like for me, Terry, that's what I see. You've created a brand for yourself, for Terry Bean. And I know when I am friends with you or following you on any social network, I know what I'm going to get there. I know I understand where you are from a values perspective. I understand how you are with fellow human beings from a respect perspective. And I know sometimes you might post some things that I may not want to post, and I might, but I'm like, I respect where you're coming from that point of view. And it doesn't make me think differently or negative upon you as a person, because I know consistently who you are as a human being, right?
I was doing a training yesterday with a client of mine, and the training was all about being on video. And I said, I use video as a filter, right? I will get on video, and I'm not super outlandish, but I'll say some things, and I'm a little more casual than a lot of business professionals. And I may swear in a video, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But I say that, and I do that because I want you, prospect, to know minute one who I am and what you're dealing with. So when I show up to your office in a pair of shorts and a golf shirt and some sandals, and we're talking about some, large consulting contract, I want you to be surprised. I want you to know this is who I am. Because if you're not going to enjoy this, believe me, you're definitely not going to enjoy working together. And I'd rather both of us find that out right now.
Yeah. When's the last time you wore a suit, Terry?
I have suits. So was that an answer?
The question was not, do you have suits? It was, when was the last time you actually wore a suit? Or I should say on a regular basis, because you might go to a funeral or something where you're wearing a suit, or you might be in a wedding where you have to wear a tuxedo. So that
doesn't count.
Right, that doesn't count. When is the last time you wore a suit on a regular basis? Or have you ever worn a suit on a regular basis?
I had a job where I wore a suit on a regular basis in the early 2000s. I wore a tie. I've worn a tie 3 times since 2007.
Wow.
Once was June 30th, 2018, to my sister's wedding.
See?
So then you caught me on that one.
Yeah.
Once was 2014 when I spoke to a group of lawyers at the Detroit Athletic Club.
Was a tie a requirement?
Tie was an absolute requirement.
There you go. So that was not willingly. That was under duress.
That was under duress. Hey, I'll tell you what, I looked sharp that day too.
I'm sure you did.
Look at this guy. Before that, 2007, when I had my last corporate job, I would wear a tie occasionally. I can wear a suit. I don't actually mind the suit. It's buttoning that top button, because I think I have a fat neck or something.
It cuts off your air, doesn't it? Like it's
horrible.
Like binding, right?
I don't understand. Like, hey, that's a good idea. No, it's not. They're not good. They're not cool.
What I want to do now is I want to kind of shift gears a little bit, and I want to invite our audience to participate in the conversation. If you have thoughts, and I've been popping the thoughts a little bit on screen as we've been going along. If you have thoughts on the subject that we're talking about, talking with people you don't agree with and finding common ground, add them in the comments. If you have a question you'd like to ask Terry, ask that question. And I did see one. It's a statement, but it's a question from our good friend Tom Daniels out in Bowling Green State University there. And Tom's asking for a better view of Terry's shirt. I wouldn't mind seeing that too, Terry. So what do you got on your shirt there? What's going on here?
So words of wisdom from my man Yoda.
Nice.
So may the force be with you, of course. Do or do not. There is no try. I don't know can you see the whole thing? Can you see the bottom?
It's are those like tear-off papers?
It's like the tear-off paper. Exactly. So there's all kinds of good stuff. Fear is the path to the dark side. Keep that in mind, people. So there's a handful of those. Thank you for asking, Tom. Not a tie on Yoda or me, so we're clear.
Very nice. And I'm going to have to agree with Jennifer Laidlaw on this one. Love Terry Bean too. Great guy. Thank you, Jennifer, for watching. Do you know Jennifer? Have you met her yet?
I do know her through LinkedIn. I don't know if we've met in real life. She's going to have to answer that. If she remembers. So I definitely, that name looks very familiar. Hard to forget though, right? It's a cool name. Yeah, no, definitely.
So Jennifer, I also asked, or she commented, she's been getting some more negative comments on LinkedIn too. Usually this is the worst, right, Terry? The negative comment, and then here's my bit.ly link, or come and buy my logo design on Fiverr, or whatever the heck they're doing, right?
You're doing it wrong when you start off being a jerk and then move into buy my stuff, right? That's like, if there's a way to do it wrong, it might be this right here. Uh-oh. What happened? What happened? Which one of us is frozen? Is it me frozen? Is it you frozen? Who's frozen? Frozen, frozen, frozen. Oh, I guess I'll stop that. But I don't know if I don't know who's doing what. I think I want to be on the show still. You're in the show. Internet's kicking. Uh-oh. Booted. I don't know if I'm still live and Brenda left, because that seems odd. But on the off chance she did leave and I am still live, let's talk about getting to common ground, right? It's all about relatability. It's all about finding the things that most people experience. And it's about changing the narrative of the conversation from you're a jerk to how do I better understand you, right? We have to go into these things with the idea that we want to form an understanding. And I've got friends that'll tell you, you can't reason with people that are on the crazy Q-tip, right? You guys all know what Q Anonymous is by now, I hope. If you don't know, Brenda referred to them earlier, the crazy tinfoil hat wearers. And maybe some of them are. Or maybe they know stuff that we don't know. That's just it. We don't know. And once you can remove ego from the conversation, because that ends up being a big part of it, and you can go into the idea of, I'm not really sure. I'm interested to hear what you think. Then that's where reasonable and realistic feedback comes in. It's when you go in thinking you know everything and you take a stance, right, where you're digging your heels into the ground. That's why we have problems, because we have two sides. They dig in as much as humanly possible, and no one's willing to give. If you come at it with an attitude of, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to get better, I'm trying to improve, people will actually help. People will actually communicate. People will actually lower their guard and share things on a realistic basis. And that's kind of what ends up being the important lesson here, is you have to change that mood. You have to change that mindset. So it's kind of fun. I really don't know what to do. This is weird. And I can't see, somebody comment? Although I'm probably stuck here sitting by myself is really what's going on, right? Is that what's going on? Tell me. Here comes Brenda.
So what happened? Did you stay on the whole time?
I did.
That's so exciting. Hey, do you remember when this happened at HR Unite?
Yes.
And you were like, you didn't lose an internet connection. I think your battery was dying. Yeah. And you like walked away. So this is the universe repaying us again, Terry. That's what's happening right now.
I love it.
You get my back, I get your back. So my Wi-Fi just like hiccuped, and I'm like trying to get back in, and then I yell out, "It's what?" And my daughter's like, "The Wi-Fi's out." I go, "It can't go out. I'm in the middle of a phone call right now." And I was almost up on my phone, and then it popped back up again. So what I miss? Anything good?
I love it. I went on a quick monologue about relatability and trying to figure out how to get to that middle, right? So yeah. I was like, I figured I might as well try and stay on topic.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. And that the great thing is when you have an awesome guest like Terry Bean, I wasn't even worried. I was like, I'm like, if it conked out for both of us, he'll probably come back. And if it just conked out for me, he's got this, he'll handle it. I'm gonna go get a coffee while I'm out too. And,
ran up to Timmy Hose, got yourself a little double. I love it. I love it. Yeah. It was interesting because in that situation, I have no idea if you dropped or if I dropped, right? So you're frozen. The comment from Jennifer Laidlaw is the only thing on screen. And I'm like doing this. I'm like, okay, which one of us is frozen?
So could you still see yourself up on screen when it happened?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it stayed and it said live and it looked, and then like you eventually dropped out. And I was like.
And then you were solo, right?
I was solo.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to talk on the off chance anyone's still paying attention.
Right. Could you see comments or no?
No comments came in to my knowledge.
Okay.
So but I don't know if I have access to comments as the guest.
So technically,
I can see and hear you. Thank you, Heather.
You can see them like as soon as I pop them up on the screen. But the only comments you can see, like there's a private chat over here, and I can say hi, Terry Bean, and then you'll get my comment. But you can't see like the guest comments. The way you could do it, Terry, and I sometimes tell my guests this, I'm like, pull out your phone, and when I'm doing like kind of the intro, hey, welcome everybody, where you watch more, like pull up your phone, go to the LinkedIn stream, and then just mute your phone because it's like about a 20 or second or so delay, and then you can watch the comments coming in from here. Yes. It's not perfect, and I'm hoping StreamYard continues to tweak and modify because what's actually happening is we are sitting on a LinkedIn, rather on a StreamYard server, which is pointing to LinkedIn. So the good part is when you have a host like me who loses a Wi-Fi connection, the guest will still stay on because it's not being put through my Wi-Fi. But the limitation is, as a host, I get all like I've got a whole navigation that I can see that Terry can't see. So good news, bad news, guys. If you left a comment, I can start to see comments now, but if you left a comment and I didn't get to your question yet, you got to drop it in again. So I'm seeing a few comments coming in here. And Christopher Johnson's one of your comrades with TEDx Detroit, right? One of your planning team members there.
Absolutely. Chris is the voice of TEDx Detroit. You know, I get comments and compliments occasionally on my voice. I've been told a million times I should be on radio. And I always tell people, as soon as somebody that can put me on radio says that, I'm going to listen. And Chris makes me sound like a high-pitched, squeaky little mouse man. That dude has melodious tones like it's nobody's business.
Yeah.
Love him, man. He's a good dude.
He's got a great radio voice. And while we're on the subject of talking about, LinkedIn a little bit earlier, I do want to pull up, Terry, your LinkedIn profile. You recently changed your profile. You changed your header, or rather your headshot photo, right?
I changed on your LinkedIn photo. I did. Yeah. And I'm wearing a ball cap, and I've never had a ball cap on a LinkedIn picture before. And also I've never had the same photo on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at the same time. But I was doing an interview. My daughter took that photo, and it felt like, well, it's current, right? It's like this month, well, maybe last month.
Because it looks like you. It looks like Terry Bean today. I mean, in the Terry Bean in the background, you can see the facial hair is a little lighter, right?
Yeah. That picture in the background is a lot older than I think it is, right?
Yeah.
It's
not, because usually when you see people's photos on LinkedIn, I always tell people it should look like you today, not like you from 20 years ago. Was it taken within the past 5 years? And they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, no, dude, it was like 1990 at least. It's like a lot of, I mean, that still looks like you. If I walk into a room or a coffee shop, I'm going to spot you. It might be a little harder because you're masked now and I can see your eyes, right?
That's right.
It still looks like you. So I do want to ask. I do want to ask, because I mentioned TEDx Detroit, and I'm a huge, huge fan of TEDx and the organization.
Wonderful supporter.
So
thank you.
What's happening with TEDx Detroit, Terry, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, you know what? We are bringing it like we've never brought it before. So at the highest level, the most important things are A, virtual, B, free.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It's free, right? Free, no charge. Normally, if you got the early ticket, it was $65. There are people that have paid $125 for TEDx before.
Wow. Okay.
So free, and 2 or 3, 9:30.
A2 and 3B, A, C, D.
A2 and Q. Here we are.
X,
just make a random letters like bullet points, whatever.
Right.
September 30th. So we're doing 3 sessions. The 3 sessions, session 1 is from, I believe, 10 to 11:30. Session 2 is 2 to 3:30. And then we're doing TEDx Detroit prime time from 8 till 9:30 at night.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool.
So it's cool. We got a good mix of new speakers, a good mix of people that have taken the stage before and going to give us an update.
That's awesome.
And we've got a couple of our all-time favorite TED Talks, which is going to be which is going to be pretty cool too. What I'm really, really excited about, Brenda, if y'all went and looked at my LinkedIn post from the day, you see a picture of me where my friends on Facebook saw this photo 2 years ago. They were like, I had no idea you had that many teeth. Like, I have the biggest cheese eating grin anyone's ever seen.
Is this on your LinkedIn or your Facebook? Where'd you say it was?
It's on LinkedIn today.
On your LinkedIn today. So your post from today on LinkedIn?
My LinkedIn, my most recent post today tells a story about me chasing down a guy named Al Jean. Al Jean is the executive producer and showrunner for my all-time favorite show, The Simpsons.
Yes.
And he's speaking at this year's event.
Awesome.
I've been chasing this dude down.
Did he speak before, or was it somebody? Who was it last year? There's somebody from The Simpsons, wasn't it last year? Or?
No, there hasn't been anybody. That was a picture of me a couple of years ago when I actually, after he said no to me 4 times, I finally said, okay, but can you at least be on my podcast?
Yeah. So, that's what that was? Yeah.
So I interviewed him on my podcast a couple of years ago. And so that's, my wife came by and she had her camera and she took a picture and I was like, oh, well, this is one for the ages.
Giddy. That's like, if you looked up giddy in the dictionary, there'd be like, see Terry Bean's photo right here. He is giddy. He is so excited.
It's so cool. So I've been, since 2014, I've been trying to get this guy to speak. So because of COVID, thank you, COVID, one of the few times people are going to thank COVID. He's like, yeah, I can do it. It's virtual. I'm in.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Super cool. So,
yeah. Well, I want to be respectful of your schedule and timing, and I know some folks are like, well, we got to get back to our job, so we got to get to what we're doing. So we should probably, I could probably keep going for hours and just keep talking about Terry. We could just keep going all day long, but I just want to thank you, Terry, for being on today and for taking the time to share your thoughts, and hopefully you have inspired people that are watching to start talking to people and finding that common ground and have respectful dialogue and conversations. Any final comments you'd like to offer to our viewers here today, or shout outs or anything you're working on that you want to tell us about before we wrap here?
So a couple of things. One, really, this should be called listening to people you don't agree with and how to find common ground, right? Because really it's not as much about the talking as it is about the listening. So let's put the focus where it needs to be. 2, a couple, 3, 4, 5 shout outs. Gotta say hi to Tina Marie. Why didn't we talk about her yet? Tina Marie. It seems like after 47 minutes, she would have come up, but
I know she's probably
HR awesome lady.
She's probably like tied under a railroad or something. I mean, we can't we gotta make sure she's okay because she hasn't come on yet and been like, I know you guys,
Yeah, maybe that's why we didn't talk about her. It's on her. You didn't even come out and approach us. I'm just kidding. She is fantastic. Huge fan. And then, one of the things that I'm working on right now that might be interesting to people that are trying to grow their business. I have a client out in Grand Rapids called Assemble, and they are bringing expert solution providers together for your business growth needs. And so I really like them. I like what they're about. I like how they're going about it, because we don't need full-time employees to do things. We need the right expert at the right time with the right skill set. And so they're doing a great job of bringing talent together. In fact, we should get you registered because you do enough of the social marketing and LinkedIn expertise that people need to grow their business. You could be an excellent expert. So hire, HIRE, assemble.com might be worth a look.
Okay. I'm going to drop that into the comments as you continue on your shout outs here. Yeah, go ahead.
Say hi to Danny and Tyler and James over there. And other than that, I think there's just so many awesome people that I'd feel really guilty if I let folks down and left them out.
This is like your Oscar speech. Like, I'd like to thank my wife, my daughter, the director, the producer, my agent.
The guy who sold me the paddle board.
Right.
I got a new paddle for my board. The new paddle's amazing.
Right.
I've named it Scorpio. It's got a name. Why wouldn't it? It's so cool. I'm a happy guy, Brenda, and I'm super grateful that you're in my life because you're one of the good ones. And we need to do a better job of surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us, who inform us, who help us be better, who encourage us, and who are doing that en masse. And you, lady, have been amazing at that, not only these past 6 months, but long before. So I'm so excited that your journey has kept you close in my life,
Yeah.
but watching you excel and keep moving forward is just fantastic. So keep me and you, lady.
Oh, thank you. And you guys, if you're watching, and if you probably see me talking about Terry Bean very often. And Terry was the first person I heard the phrase co-opetition from. And I surround myself with people who are similar to me in their services, their approach. Sometimes, Terry and I both do LinkedIn talks. We both train people on LinkedIn. And Terry and I are in the same geography. We're both in Metro Detroit. And some people might go, why would you shine the spotlight on a competitor? And I'm like, well, you don't understand when you do that. I've sent work to Terry, Terry's sent work to me. We help each other, and what is it? The rising tide lifts all boats type of a philosophy. And somebody else, one of the LinkedIn rock stars, they called it the restaurant row analogy. If you want to get more business for yourself, surround yourself with businesses that are similar to yours, because people come and they kind of shop around from one another. But I learn things from Terry, and Terry learns things from me, and we can help each other to be stronger, be more effective. And we both share that abundance mentality as well. There's more than enough work to go around. We don't have to compete on it, right, Terry?
Not at all. Not at all. There's so much, and there are people that are not going to like me, which surprises me, but it does happen. But they'll absolutely love Brenda. So it's the best. It's the best of both worlds, right? I would much rather give business to somebody I know, and support somebody I care about, than just some random person, right? It's fun celebrating friends' victories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Terry. And it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you in person again at some point. Motor City Connect, are you guys meeting virtual right now, or have you kind of paused your meetings with that group?
Motor City Connect is kind of on hiatus.
Okay.
About a year ago, I decided to invest more time and energy into a specific private group. So I handpicked a bunch of people called Club MCC.
That's right. Yeah.
And put them into Club MCC. So I've been breathing all that Motor City Connect energy into that much smaller club. Okay. The return is better, the time is better, the intel is better, the people are consistent, right? Because they're selected as opposed to random, and I feel bad for the masses, but it's a better use of my time and energy.
Yeah, no, that's well said and well spoken, because you can get pulled in so many different directions. So totally appreciate it. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry we didn't get all of your comments up on screen. I want to thank all of you for watching. If you happen to be watching this playback later on, still leave a comment below, because Terry and I will still monitor the post, whether it's on Facebook or on LinkedIn or on YouTube. And I will also give the links to Terry so he can come back later and respond to any of our additional comments. And then one other thing I want you guys to do, as soon as you're done watching this video, whether it's live or playback, go back in and click on share. Share the video with someone. You can just share it as a post, and that counts as your social media post for today. Tag Terry Bean and tell people why he's awesome and they should follow him based on your watching the video. Or you can share it as a private message or share it to somebody through email. You never know when it's going to strike a chord in a very positive way that can help to, maybe stimulate some positive conversations and connections from occurring. So thank you guys for watching. And then do make sure to go on to mellermarketing.com/subscribe, and you can join my VIP email list where you'll get notification of my future LinkedIn Live series and also some LinkedIn strategy tips. So Terry, what's the rest of the day look like for you at this point? Are you paddleboarding? Are you in the house today? What's going on with you?
I've got a paddleboard appointment that might take place after my podcast that I have to record in about 2 minutes.
We'll let you go then.
Yeah, or listen, Janet's been my podcast partner for 5 years, right? If I show up late, she's not going to be surprised. Yeah. So I've got it's either going to be at noon or 1:30. I'm not sure when the paddleboarding will take place, but I've got a couple of phone calls and some writing and all that fun stuff that we do on the normal.
That's great. Well, thank you again for your time. I look forward to seeing you again in person in the future. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Stay safe and stay healthy, and we will see you.
She froze again. Frozen girl.